This is exactly what Skechers needed, the SKX 2. Skechers re-entered the football boot market around a year ago with a bang, signing Harry Kane. However, they have a problem, and the problem is this logo right here. Skechers don't have reputation in the football boot world, and despite putting out some pretty good boots, there was nothing to convert enough people. However, with this, the SKX 2, that might be about to change. I've got them on the pitch today, so let's talk about why these are a sneaky contender for Boot of the Year. Okay, the most important thing, sizing. What size should you go out and buy? And for me, the answer is to go for your regular or true to size. So I have these in a US 8, UK 7, a 26 centimeter. Now I have a 26 centimeter long foot. I correspond that to the Japanese sizing on these boots, and that means that the length is basically ideal. However, something you definitely want to consider is that the toe box does kind of come down to a reasonably low pinch, and I do have slim to no room in the end of this boot, and there is very little in the way of additional volume. Now that does lead to a very close, tight fit, which is exactly what you want from your football boots. However, if you want a little bit more room, I don't see any harm in going up half a size. Do bear in mind you have a crazy soft upper, so that's going to help with that overall fit and comfort, but up half a size isn't going to hurt if you really feel you need to, or if you have an excessively wide foot. But general advice for most people, go with your regular size and you will get on with these just fine. If you were thinking I was going to start with information about the upper or the outsole, you were wrong. I'm going to start with two things you might not expect me to, which are the heel and also the insole. The heel on this is phenomenal. It is super comfortable, and it has these little silicone dots that run all the way up the heel, which really do help you with the lockdown. But the shape and the padding is actually what's most important, along with this solid internal heel counter, which has, as most boots do now, a pretty soft rear section, so there's no pressure points. I think it's fantastic. Now it is slightly on the wider side than some other heel counters that are out there, but not to the detriment of the boot. I think that just means it's going to be comfortable for an awful lot of people. That's a word I'm probably going to end up using a lot for this boot: comfortable and comfort. Then we can talk about, let's get it out, this. And I don't talk about insoles a lot because generally they're terrible, so they just get skipped on by. This isn't great. This, however, with the Hyperburst Pro Foam, is fantastic, and it just adds an element of comfort to this boot that other boots simply do not have, and I absolutely love it. I think it is amazing. Then again, you've got those little grip dots all over the sock liner. Get my words out, trying to do this in one take. All over the sock liner, which again just helps hold you in place. It's like having a grip sock on your sock liner, so you don't actually need grip socks. Honestly, that's great, but this foam and how much better this is than basically almost any other insole you can get is mind-blowing. Well worth it for the heel and the insole alone. If it wasn't clear, the heel lockdown is also very good. Very deep feeling, very good lockdown. Thank you. Let's talk about the outsole, which is a carryover from the previous generation SKX 1, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of a split sole design because you have the internal board with this pod on top of it that contains all of the studs, and you might think when you get it out of the box that it is very stiff, and honestly, that's how it feels out of the box. However, once you get going with it and you've used it a little while, it actually softens up quite quickly. Now, I'm not taking that as a criticism because it doesn't over soften, but do be aware that if you're looking for super stiff through the midfoot and the heel, that's exactly what it feels like out of the box. But the more that you wear it, it does soften up quite quickly. So you're gonna get a little more rotational movement than you might expect when you first pick them up. However, still a very responsive forefoot, absolutely nothing wrong with that, and a really great stud pattern that does all kinds of wonderful things for multi-directional movement. It's not the most aggressive, but honestly, I wouldn't recommend it for AG pitches. I just think that some of the studs are a little bit too long. So if you are playing on AG, go and buy the AG version. Should you wear the Skechers SKX 2 if you have a wide foot? And honestly, yeah, I think this is going to do the job for a lot of people. There is a good amount of width through this midfoot area. The forefoot has a reasonable amount of width, and overall this super soft upper means it is going to suit most wide-footed people. However, there are a couple of things that I do want to mention as somebody who has a wide foot. The first one being that there's not a ton of volume through this forefoot area, and because it is so soft, I can push out into it. That's completely fine and a really great thing. But what it means is as I push it out, I obviously decrease that volume a little bit more, and you can start to feel a little bit of pressure on the end of the toes. So if you have that wider foot, again, consider, like I said at the start, the half a size bigger. I think it'll do the job. Similarly, I do push out into this boot quite a lot around this area here, again with my wider foot, and I do find that on harder surfaces such as this one here and hard grass surfaces, I do get a bit of stud pressure on either side. So don't use this on AG like I've already said, but it's not an absolute disaster. But do expect to push that out, and do expect to kind of really fill out and mold to this upper shape. So again, half size up if you have a very wide foot, and you should still get along with these pretty well. Let's talk about lockdown and a bit of lateral stability. So the lockdown here is good. I don't have any issues whatsoever. If you do have a narrower foot, you might find you suffer a little bit because it's a one-piece upper with admittedly a pretty deep lacing system, but overall a shape that is on the wider side. So if you do have that narrower foot, you might find you don't get that same lockdown feeling. But I will say that myself, filling out the boot, the lockdown is good. I'm not blown away, but I think it's very impressive, and I've not really got a lot to say about it. However, the thing that kind of takes it away from being exceptional is unfortunately one of the things we're going to talk about in a second, which is one of the best things about the boot, which is how unbelievably soft this upper is. The softness of the upper does mean that you can push out into the side of the upper, and occasionally you can feel like you're really pushing the boot away from yourself, and it's not holding you quite as well as it should. Now there is a transition in the boot back to a more structured area through the back kind of quarter, which honestly I don't think does a huge amount because it is so far back. We are relying on this cage structure on a very soft material to give us an awful lot of that lateral stability. And while I don't think this is a disaster, and it's absolutely a trade-off I'm willing to make to get this crazy soft upper, don't expect speed boot, locked in, lateral stability, boot going nowhere, because that's not what it's designed for. Remember, this is not Skechers speed boot. So I'm not disappointed by this. I don't think it's a problem, but just something you should know if that's what you're looking for, or if you do have that narrower foot. Okay, let's talk about it. I've referenced it a couple of times, this upper, which Skechers have labeled as precise strike control. But honestly, we're not going to talk about individual little tech details today. This is very much about how it performs and if you should go out and buy it. I will do another video in the studio where we go into how things are made and what each individual element is. But all you actually need to know is the fact that this is a stupidly soft upper material. It's absolutely insane, and you'll think it's soft out of the box, and then you'll wear it for 20 minutes and it just beds in to be even softer. It's absolutely fantastic. Then on top of that, you've got this slightly grippy finish to it. So it's not in any way slick. It's actually more grippy than you might anticipate. Quite impressive. And then the way that it's all held together and it's given structure with this cage actually also means that overall it gets a little bit more in terms of texture through the boot, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Now, I did mention it rolls a little bit earlier, but this cage does help hold it in place. It actually reminds me of the Under Armour clutch fit and how that kind of used to work, where it would kind of expand and allow you to stretch it out, but without it going too far. That feels like that's the idea. And overall, really, really positive. I will say, I think this is a mistake that so many brands make, and that's the S on the Skechers here. This is slick. So it's a branding that's been put on that covers over the sticky material. Why? Like, this could be hollow or anything like that to allow the material to shine through. Branding is less important than the actual performance. So for me, it's silly. It's really silly. It just needs to be hollow to allow you to have that grippy sensation consistently across the whole boot. In terms of the touch on the ball, it is surprisingly barefoot, but with an element of the touch being dampened, should we say. So you do feel very close to the ball, which is absolutely fantastic. There's not, basically, I don't think there's any foam in between the upper and the liner. It's this really one-to-one sensation, but with that added grip. And then this cage, it just seems to act as almost a little bit of a rebound effect, where it just dampens the touch ever so slightly away from being barefoot. I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not complaining whatsoever. I'm just trying to describe to you what it feels like. And for me, it's something that I really enjoy because I can feel connected to the ball, but it also feels like a solid touch and feel on a very soft upper. Really quite impressive. The upper itself isn't super thin either between the upper material and the liner. So again, not razor sharp, not barefoot, that's fine. Just one-to-one, direct, solid, and super soft. It's a really nice combination. I like it a lot, and this upper is absolutely the star of the show on this, even if I do love the foam on the insole quite a lot.